All right, bit of real or overs
Yes.
from all that comes out of this furnace.
I'm not a player that's won one. And for this group, if they don't now go on to win one, this night will haunt them.
They were deers in the headlight. They didn't handle the moment. This was their moment on the big stage in front of a home crowd, and they choked. That's all we can say.
He must have asked himself, why on the biggest stage of all has my team crumbled? Because, as I said, he would have prepared them no differently to how he has all year. Yeah, they went to water on the big stage.
Because they were so bad, this is mystifying, unbelievable head shaking, then the question would be, as the coach, did you identify anything that was off in the pre-game?
Disappointed, shattered, embarrassed with the way we played. Really owe our members an apology for what happened on Saturday night.
Don't see them making any drastic moves in terms of moving on from the coach, but next year will be his 10th year, as we've spoken about on this show all year, and I just find it really hard for him to go beyond next year because it's going to have to be a grand final appearance or he probably will lose his job.
I think the smashing could be a blessing. I really do, in the end, because if you play it out to a 15 or a 20-point loss and you fall into, well, gee, are we still close? Are we still close enough where we can roll it out again and try again and we might get over the top? No, I think it's a big enough reality check to now make meaningful change.
Yeah, put the illness aside, put being battered for 6 weeks aside and say we need to be really brutal on this. We might have got to the top 4, but we were 83 points away.
So unfortunately, it comes down to a trust issue for me. And for Gary, his home and away form now has become irrelevant. Well, I just don't believe he can do the job in a finals. And when that becomes the case, then unfortunately, you probably don't play him anymore.
They just look like they'd come to the end of this campaign, and the longer it went, the more exposed they were.
The losing was brutal, so the conclusions equally so. A real or overreaction here, 4 of them, Brownie.
Yep.
Saturday will haunt Port.
Well, I think that's an overreaction. Haunt seems like a negative word. Are we putting a line through Port Adelaide going forward for the next few years? I don't think so. They had a bad night, Port Adelaide. I've got no doubts the coaches would have addressed it at the start of that fortnight leading into the game that, hey, let's not drink our own bathwater, boys. Let's not get too many pats on the back down to the local cafe. They would have addressed that. The players just weren't ready for it, and Western Bulldogs are magnificent. So I think it's an overreaction. They can bounce back.
Yep, you can never know, I suppose, and that's for each player to live with through
got a
the
good list
off-season.
demographic, age demographic's pretty good, and young stars.
Okay. The Cats can still contend next year, real or over?
I say contending is top 4. Now, I know Bulldogs were 5th this year, but I viewed them as almost the best team for most of the year. So I don't think they're a top 4 side next year. My concern is, I know there's been comparisons made to the 2010 Prelim final, and then they won in 2011. They all saying everyone was too old. The difference is the under-25s. That under-25s that night back then was Selwood, Taylor, Hawkins and Varco. Now, the 6 guys that are under 25 on Friday night, I'm not sure we've still got the same talent there, or we certainly haven't seen enough. Myers, Henry, Zach Guthrie, Rattigalia, Close and Holmes. So that's the concern for me. They need some younger ones to push up and desperately need Stewart and O'Connor back.
All right, so back to Kenny. It's grand final or bust for Kenny next year?
No, that's an overreaction, absolutely.
It's too linear.
You're going to get too linear. If he finishes 3rd or 4th, are you going to get sacked? I wouldn't have thought so. Still a magnificent achievement to finish in the top 4. Let's not forget about this. This is a brutal, brutal competition. So Kenny's a very good coach there and he would survive, absolutely. I'm going to ask you one.
Yes.
Just to finish off, mate. The Cats can't play Gary Rowan anymore. Real or overreaction?
No, I'm not a big banished kind of guy. That's an overreaction. I totally understand the point that was being made, but that's too much for me. So Rowan was terrible and he did go missing. Hawkins and Cameron didn't get a sniff of it either, which might give you a bit of the geography of the ground.
Yeah, I don't want to be accused of defending forwards too much, but as much as we think we're the most important beasts out in that footy field, at the end of the day, it happens in the midfield. And if you don't get the supply and the service, it's hard to kick a winning score and certainly dominate as a forward, especially for him. Half forward flankers, forward pockets, hardest position on the ground if you're not getting much supply. He can cope under pressure. He's kicked 2 goals after the Sirens. We've seen that. We saw it once this year. So I'm with you on that one, Jared.
All right, let's bring in our players, shall we? You're all going to dark places here initially. We're going to take you to win it.